What's the most dangerous mistake seniors make when managing blood pressure after 60? When a senior patient brings this up, I always start with the same clarification. Blood pressure after 60 is rarely just about a single number being high or low. It reflects how the brain, heart, kidneys, and blood vessels are aging together. And if we chase a target without understanding how the body tolerates it, even the most modern treatment plan can quietly do harm. So, in today's episode of the Senior Health Podcast, Japan's oldest doctor will explain how to identify the safest and best blood pressure range for seniors, based on age, symptoms, and overall resilience. You'll learn how blood pressure targets change after 60, what the major studies truly mean for you as a senior, and how to spot when treatment is too aggressive. By the end of this episode, listeners will know how to read their numbers correctly and identify a safer personal range that protects both health and independence. Doctor, welcome back. I know many listeners have been waiting for this conversation. Thank you, John. This episode is especially important for seniors over 60. A large global analysis led by researchers at the University of Tokyo found that more than 1 billion adults worldwide live with high blood pressure, with prevalence rising sharply after 60. Yet many seniors struggle not because care is missing, but because the target itself does not match how their aging body functions. We have taught seniors how to track numbers, but not how to know when those numbers are truly supporting health. Exactly. We're often told blood pressure is simply good or bad, but it's a living adaptive signal. It changes with age, stiffness of the arteries, and daily stress, and it deserves interpretation, not judgment. That's right. Blood pressure isn't just about preventing heart attacks. It determines how well blood reaches the brain, how the kidneys filter, and how steady a senior feels when standing or walking. And once we understand that, the number becomes a guide instead of a threat. That makes sense. In past conversations, we've talked about ways to lower blood pressure naturally using breathing and a bunch of other exercises. But for many seniors, the real confusion comes from not knowing how low is too low. So today is different again, since we're focusing on clarity instead of urgency, on safety instead of chasing perfection. And I promise seniors who stay with us through this entire episode will gain more than a target number. They'll understand what their body needs to stay clear-headed, steady, and protected. That understanding changes how every decision feels. That's what I love most. Many seniors believe blood pressure control is about strict rules, but often it's about listening more closely and adjusting with care. It always comes back to balance. And in the next few moments, we'll begin with a truth that surprises many seniors. The safest blood pressure is not always the lowest one. I remember hearing that for the first time and feeling skeptical, but as I saw patient after patient feel stronger and more alert, it became impossible to ignore. The change was real, and it mattered. These insights are deeply important. John, I truly hope seniors stay with us until the end, because each part builds understanding, and together they form a complete picture. Me too, doctor. So let's begin. How can a senior tell whether their current blood pressure target is actually helping or quietly hurting them? Well, let me begin by saying that after 60, the body does not move blood the way it once did, because arteries stiffen and pressure no longer spreads evenly. When pressure is pushed too low, the brain, kidneys, and balance centers may not receive steady flow, even if the number looks ideal. So what protects a younger adult can quietly strain a senior if we do not adjust for aging physiology. That lands deeply, because many seniors are praised for perfect numbers while feeling weaker. I hear confusion and even fear when symptoms do not match what the chart says. Yes, and this is where guidelines are often misunderstood. A guideline places a number into a category, but it does not tell us how a living body experiences that number. A safe blood pressure is one that allows a senior to think clearly, stand, and move through the day with confidence. When function declines while numbers improve, the body is offering important information. That reframes the whole conversation in a way seniors rarely hear. The key here is learning to notice when support turns into strain. Once we understand that threshold, everything about treatment begins to change. I can feel listeners leaning in right now because that threshold feels personal. How can a senior recognize the early signs that blood pressure has slipped from helpful into harmful? Let me explain this gently. The earliest signs are rarely dramatic, and that's why they're often overlooked. Seniors may notice subtle changes like feeling lightheaded when standing, slower thinking in the morning, or a quiet fatigue that doesn't match their usual energy. Those are often the body's first signals that pressure is no longer supporting circulation the way it should. That resonates because families describe exactly that to me. They say the chart looks reassuring, but daily life feels harder. Yes, and science helps us understand why. The systolic blood pressure intervention trial followed more than 9,300 adults with an average age of 68 for just over 3 years. Seniors assigned to an intensive systolic target below 120 did experience fewer heart attacks and strokes, but they also had significantly higher rates of fainting, electrolyte problems, acute kidney injury, and falls compared to those treated to a target below 140. It showed that lowering blood pressure can protect the heart for some seniors, but it can also strain aging organs when pushed too far. That balance is rarely explained when seniors hear about those results, and it becomes even clearer when we look globally. The STEP trial conducted in China followed adults aged 60 to 80 and found similar patterns. Lower targets reduced cardiovascular events, but side effects rose, especially in seniors with multiple conditions or lower resilience. These studies weren't wrong, but they were never meant to be applied without judgment. That context alone changes how a senior should hear the word optimal. Exactly. The science is careful, but the message became simplified. Numbers were emphasized while symptoms and daily function were quietly set aside. And that simplification is where many seniors begin to feel worse, even while doing everything they were told was right. It sounds like the real danger isn't the studies themselves, but how easily their conclusions are misapplied. That's the heart of it. And before we talk about any specific numbers, seniors need to recognize the danger zone that often goes unnamed because numbers can look perfect on paper while the body is already struggling. That feels like the moment many listeners recognize themselves. What are the warning signs that tell a senior they may have crossed into that danger zone without realizing it? The danger zone rarely announces itself loudly. Seniors often feel it first as light-headedness when standing, a dull fog in the morning, or a fatigue that feels different from normal tiredness. These are signs the brain and balance centers are not being perused steadily. I hear that a lot in seniors, especially when they say mornings feel harder than they used to. Families often sense something has changed before anyone names it. Yes, and the body is trying to adapt. When blood pressure drops too far, especially with multiple medications, blood flow can dip suddenly when a senior stands or walks. That momentary drop, what we call an orthostatic change, can leave the brain briefly undersupplied and the kidneys strained over time. That explains why the symptoms come and go instead of staying constant. Exactly. And when those moments repeat, seniors may feel unsteady, lose confidence in their steps, or experience near falls without understanding why. These are not signs of weakness or aging alone. They are signals that treatment may be too aggressive. That distinction feels incredibly important for listeners to hear. And here is the part many seniors miss. Blood pressure readings can look excellent in the clinic while the body struggles between measurements. A systolic number dipping near or below 100, especially with symptoms, is often where risk quietly increases. It's unsettling how invisible that can be to everyone involved. This is why I always tell seniors to listen to both the number and the feeling. When clarity fades or balance feels fragile, it deserves attention, not dismissal. And before we ever talk about lowering or raising a target, we must first understand what range allows the body to function well. That makes me think of listeners wondering what a safer range actually looks like. How can a senior begin to identify a personal target they can discuss confidently with their doctor? Let's begin with something reassuring. A personal target does not start with a number. It starts with how a senior lives and feels each day. Age, activity level, medical history, and medications all shape what the body can comfortably tolerate. So, we look for a range that supports clarity, balance, and steady energy. That feels grounding because many seniors think they need to hit one perfect number. They often worry they're failing if they don't. Yes, and that fear can push treatment too far. For many seniors in their 60s and 70s who are active and steady, a moderate range often protects the heart without straining the brain. For older or more fragile seniors, slightly higher pressure can actually be safer, especially when decess or falls have already appeared. That makes the idea of personal feel very real. The key here is how the body responds. When pressure is right, seniors think clearly, stand up without hesitation, and move through the day without fear of fainting. That is what tolerating lower truly means. Not just reaching a goal on paper. It's reassuring to hear that feeling well is part of the measurement, and before any decision is finalized, we confirm it gently. We look at patterns over time and pair the numbers with how the senior feels. Only then does a target become supportive instead of stressful. Research from a long-running study in Ohus, Japan showed that home blood pressure readings predicted stroke and heart snorts risk far more accurately than clinic measurements. The body tells the truth most clearly in familiar settings over time. That tells me the numbers alone are never enough. Exactly. And this is why how seniors measure blood pressure at home becomes so important. A good target can look wrong if the readings are taken poorly, and a risky target can look safe if key steps are skipped. That raises an important point for listeners. How should seniors be checking their blood pressure at home so the numbers actually reflect what their body is experiencing? Let me explain in a way so everyone can understand it. At home, seniors get the clearest picture when blood pressure is taken in calm, familiar conditions, not rushed or distracted moments. Sitting quietly for a few minutes, feet on the floor, breathing settled, allows the body to show its true resting state. That already sounds different from how many people do it at home. I often hear they grab the cuff quickly and check while talking or watching the news. Yes, and that habit can distort everything. The cuff should fit the arm properly and rest at heart level, and the reading should be repeated after a short pause to see if it stabilizes. Patterns over days matter far more than a single number written down once. That helps explain why readings can feel inconsistent and confusing. And there is one step especially important for seniors. After sitting, taking a gentle standing reading can reveal drops that never appear otherwise. This change helps us see whether the brain is briefly losing blood flow when posture shifts. That small step alone could explain so many unexplained dizzy spells. Exactly. When seniors track both seated and standing readings alongside how they feel, the numbers begin to tell a story. It becomes easier to see whether symptoms align with dips or sudden changes, and that clarity protects seniors from unnecessary worry or unnecessary treatment. It sounds like awareness is just as important as accuracy here. Yes. And once seniors have these honest numbers, something important happens. The conversation with a clinician changes from fear to partnership. The data becomes a shared language instead of a source of tension. That feels empowering rather than intimidating, and that leads us forward. Knowing how to measure is only the first half of safety. The next step is learning how to use these readings to speak calmly and confidently with a clinician about adjustments that protect daily function. That feels like the moment many listeners need guidance. How can seniors bring these numbers and symptoms into a conversation with their doctor without feeling anxious or dismissed? I always recommend arriving with simple notes and not arguments. Bringing a short log of home readings and a few clear symptoms tells a story without confrontation. I hear how that shifts the tone already. It turns the visit into a shared review instead of a challenge. Yes, and the words matter. Describing how you feel, standing up, walking, or thinking clearly keeps the focus on function, not failure. When a senior says, "I feel dizzy in the morning," or "I feel less steady than last year," a good clinician listens differently. That feels more human than debating guidelines. Exactly. And it's important to ask for a measured plan. Small adjustments, careful monitoring, and follow-up protect safety and build trust. Seniors should never change medications alone because gradual steps allow the body to respond without shock. That reassurance alone will calm a lot of listeners. And here is what I want seniors to remember as we close. A good blood pressure after 60 is not the lowest number you can reach. It is the number that lets you think clearly, move confidently, and live without fear. That perspective feels grounding. It reminds seniors they are not chasing perfection, but protecting their lives as they live them. Let's end it here. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. Oh, and watch this next video right now. Yes, music please. We've picked this one especially for you.